indebted to my friend, Natun Sarbajonakotha, for being instrumental in bringing me here. And I can't help saying a few words about Natun Diganta himself at the beginning, because he's not only an exemplary political economist, but also one who has such a good sense of poetry. And I have noticed this, and he is a magnificent translator. He has translated some of my favorite poets into English from Spanish, poets such as Ernesto Cardenal from Nicaragua, and my all-time favorite revolutionary poet from Latin America, Roque Dalton. So that's Tony. And I should also point out that Tony has been extremely instrumental, in fact, in enhancing my poetic life. In the past, he supported me as a poet, as a practicing poet, I would say. I still practice. And thank you so much for your poems, for sharing your poems. And I can tell you right away, Sandra, that some of your images, particularly the ones concerning body and bleeding, and of course your outcry for liberation, will stay with me. Will stay with me. So thank you. Now, let me say a few words about the kind of poetic tradition I come from. I come from the third world poetic tradition, in which poetry, politics, praxis, and performance are all deeply intertwined. And I write poetry in two languages. My first language is Bengali, and my first language is English too. So I write in two languages, Bengali and English. These days more in Bengali than in English, and I also translate from several non-Western languages. So today you will hear my poems written in English, and then a few poems that I have translated myself, have translated, into English, my own poems originally written in Bengali, and then a few translations from the third world, from Palestine, South Asia, and even Iraq. So, the title of my first poem is If Words. If words do not run at a speed faster than light, if words do not dance, if words do not hurt, if words do not disturb, if words do not soothe, if words do not hit the oppressor, if words do not make children laugh, if words do not wipe tears, if words do not move the world, if words are not more than words, I do not have use for words in a poem I'm yet to write.
Thank you very much.
All right. The second poem here, and I should also point out here that I'm going to share with you a sequence of interconnected poems, and you will hear certain terms of expressions repeatedly, certain, because I bind this sequence with those terms of expressions. Now, this one is called 10,000 Atypical Haiku, dedicated to Caliban. And I should say a few words about Caliban here. Caliban is a character that appears in Shakespeare's play called The Tempest, and there Caliban is a slave, and his master is Prospero. So Prospero takes Caliban's language away, and Prospero imposes English on Caliban, and Caliban learns that language very well. So in the play, in his mood and mode of resistance, Caliban at one point says, and I quote Shakespeare here, meaning Caliban here, I have learned the language from you, but my profit on it is I know how to curse. Right? You have taught me English, now in English I can tell you, hey, bastard, and then you understand what I'm saying. Okay, so, Caliban, run, run. Run, 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 run. I know it's no fun. 2. Caliban, be in. Between being and seeming, Caliban is drinking. 3. Caliban is stinking while Prospero is puking, and who says, come in? 4. A fleshy white guy, Caliban's dream and and boredom he wants to buy. 5. You care and you care, but I don't. Rain or sunshine, history, a snare. Number 6. Layer upon layer, you make the same old damn point on my foot, on my hair. 7. Progress is history's dirty joke, or its bad rhyme. Caliban fakes a sneeze. 8. Caliban comes back. In boredom, under the moon, someone talks of black. 9. Be quiet, Caliban! Don't dirty my Miranda! Caliban takes a U-turn. And last, 10. The night's dark. It's ink. Caliban pees on the brink. His pea stains stick and stink. That was it. And this one is called Tentative Textures of Silence. Number 7. Silence is not a thin glass. You cannot break it, neither can I. For silence is a country of forever fumbling, trying to hint the last syllable of lost words. 6. After our bodies meet and mingle in their concord and discord, after the Hazelwood burns in your eyes, 2 drops of infinitude, silence writes its name. Number 5. Words cry and die and turn into stones when you sprinkle your footprints parting on this asphalt night. Number 3, just in 2 minutes, you resurrected my love with words and silences. Number 2, eternity is a perhaps land in the world of smoke. Eternity is a slippery soap fallen from the hand of a washerman. And number 1, an urgent plea in the manifesto of the rings, unite. Now this is the poem that I wrote about my own hometown, Dhaka. And this poem I wrote in Bengali. And then I myself translated that into English. And so I'm going to share this poem with you. It's called actually Dhaka and Dirty Dialectics, a nocturnal prose poem in 7 microcantos. It's relatively long, not going to be long more than 3 or 5 minutes. So translated from the original Bengali. So I have done it myself, it's my own poem. I have a couple of epigraphs to this poem, and the first one is taken from none other than my most favorite poet. One of my most favorite poets, I would say. You know, the lesbian, feminist, warrior, mother, as she used to call her, Audre Lorde. And Audre Lorde puts it this way, and I quote, "So where is history written except in the poems?" Unquote. And this one is from Ernesto Cardenal, from Anthony Zaragoza, translated into English. And I quote him, one line. "They have told me I only talk about politics now," unquote. Forgive me if my accent falls on the wrong syllable. Forgive me if my poem invites crude prose and coarse statistics. And this is the prose poem, by the way. Prose poem. And forgive me if I blot out the dark ensembles in the middle of your Darbari music or mess around with your late night discourses on Zen. And forgive me if I miss cues and clues from your city corporation or stock exchange for my reality check. But I ain't no apologetic poet. I don't tighten my lines taut like a bowstring so as to sling a word straight at a target from 20 yards out. And words are not machine guns or even arrows, but there are some that hurt and and even kill. And dear sir, I don't fine-tune my sentences with humble submission to your style manuals. But frankly, I rehearse the lines of my favorite black poets whenever I get a chance, and I relish repetition and madly in love with awkward alliterations and occasionally a reach for rhyme, full or half or para or masculine or feminine, if never royal, depending on my stress. And I swear, Microcanto 2, I swear by my mother's milk that Dhaka has 3,300 mysterious names, and then everyone from Ginsburg to Guntergrass has misspelled Dhaka at least once. I swear by my father's blood that everyone from the Shena kings of Vikrampur and the rulers of Sonargaon to the Turks and the Pathans to the Mughals and the British and the Pakistani sweated the dark details of your 3,300 contours and curves, never figuring out who the hell you were, Dhaka, although many of them sized you up and even measured your black chest, waist, hips, and height. I swear by the village of my birth that digressed by the smell of London, Paris, and New York. Your urban poets misread your motives and distort your profile, losing sight of at least 85,000 villages that keep sticking out like night black veins and arteries all over your body, your snazzy suit and pointed shoes and silk notwithstanding. I swear by my grandfather's prayer mat that parables and paradoxes make up your anatomy and your allegory alike. You run on your 3,300 legs and leap faster than those horses galloping away in action movies or fairy tales. Yet, you often run out of steam, your eyes glaze over with boredom, and you keep limping like Kollanpur's Kanfukir beat under the burden of a begging day. I swear by my uncle's black beads of sweat that your black slums and your white skyscrapers together keep writing your favorite epigram, progress is history's dirty joke. I swear by my teacher's black umbrella that a bearded man obsessed with unmasking capitalism, Karl Marx, or plain Charlie, as some call him, wrote a missive on your tragic Muslim to make the point that London is overweight because you are skinny and underweight. And words burst into black flames as Charlie rubbed his conceptual blocks together. I swear in the name of land and labor, in the name of your 52 bazaars and 53 lanes multiplying for 1200 years since your Kamrup days, in the name of Raja Ballal Shen's Dhakeshwari temple, in the name of Islam Khan's Jahangirnagar, in the name of 1952 and 1971, in the name of those dead metaphors only the dull prose of daily living can resurrect, in the name of those stories my grandmother told me, and in the name of my ancestral blood soaking the kernels of your body, and that your admirers and your detractors alike take advantage of your monuments and massacres, your moods and mythologies, your processions and posters, and your 3,300 wounds, whether you conceal them or reveal them. And I swear in the name of your wounds that they keep bleeding and catching the color of black fire, from Lakshmi Bazar to Tati Bazar, from Gulshan to Gulistan, from Mirpur to Muhammadpur. Microcanto 3. Mirpur to Muhammadpur you stick, and you stick such that your use values and exchange values and aesthetic values and erotic values all lure natives and foreigners alike. And you attract foreign direct investment that makes Mao and Microsoft sound alike in this era of tele-techno-hydrocarbon capital, as they name their game. And you have your electronic shamans, your .com cultural tourists, and your syntactical apologists. And then there are those who stage a return from the land of dollars and dreams to study your hovels of poverty, to get sentimental about you, and even write a feel-good epic or an Anglophone novel about your exotic underlife. And then there are those who buy and sell you on a daily basis, turning you into the middle term of that obstinate circuit, mobile at once in the algebra of Das Kapital and in the ritual of your everyday transaction. And then there are those who even mortgage your moon and dedicate love songs to the free market. And sure enough, I too wrote a poem that made the same point. When they quibble about the ultimate signify, I say cash, cash, cash. When they complain that I wax politically comic on every goddamn issue, the Kama Sutra included, I say cash, 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 cash. When they say love and cough cannot hide, I say cash, cash, cash. When they say love loves to love love, I say cash, cashes to cash, cash. Does my refrain bother your board of city directors like a stubborn itch in the ass? Now, microcanto 14. And Hatha, I hear your sepoy in the attic say, as he fashions his life after the size and shape of a solitude more tenacious than my father's faith. And I hear your school teacher's wife say, as she cooks a modest meal with greens and fish, maybe with a tang of lemon for her husband. And I hear your young lovers say as their bodies blast in a single burst of honey. And I hear your sentimental poet say, as he seeks to bandage the eyes of a crazy bull with a piece of red cloth. And I hear your painter say, as she draws an orange composed of peels of flame. And I hear your single mother say, as they pick out lice from each other's hair. And I hear your professional cook say, as his knife goes gentle into the pulp of a lonely tomato. And I hear your driver say, as his ambulance wails like a wounded animal. And I hear your muezzin say, as he clears his throat before calling his community to prayers in the Mohalla's mosque. And I hear your fortune teller say, as he reads a fate line curved like Jindabahar's second lane. And I hear your cobbler say, as he mobilizes his tools to set those out-of-joint shoes right. And I hear your student leader say, as he argues a national case with ideas and guns. And I hear your apolitical intellectual say, as he contemplates the notion of nothingness. And I hear your lower division clerk say, as he dreams of winning the lottery and making big bucks. And I hear your bureaucrat say, as he renders his files and papers infinitely hospitable to dust, honored by time. And I hear your businessman say, as he sinks his big ass slowly into the cushion of his sleek limousine and bites it deep into the round innocence of an apple. And I hear your announcer say, as the national radio punctuates a Lalam song with a soap ad, your gas lines are stronger than your bloodlines. Does my hysterical and diabolical materialism bother your board of spiritual advisors in the middle of the meeting or meditation? I'm towards the end. Micro canto 5. Or am I too prosaic to be in the company of your poets and critics policing the border between prose and poetry, the traffic of statements, over or under, or for that matter, the entire regime of tropes and techniques? You must be subtle and low-key, you bet. That is, you must be clever, really. You ought to use good English to attract foreign presses and foreign critics. For Allah's sake, hold your tongue and conserve the purity of your metaphors. Don't ever mix them higgledy-piggledy. Politics, boring. It contaminates your poetry and proselyte, and even makes them stink like a pile of pig shit. So forget political economy. There is no time or space for your friggin' big-mouth Kazi Nazrul, or your Marx-Lenin freak, Nazim Hikmet, or your cranky commie Roque Dalton, but take lessons in verbal economy. Key, your profit lies in making the maximum of meaning out of the minimum of words. And oh yes, make it a point to clean up all your phrases and wipe their arses before they stand up for saying prayers to the West or Washington or Wall Street. And be sure that you don't rock the boat of those mullahs at this dangerous time. Thus, scale upon scale, their commandments accumulate in the name of good English, good poetry, good prose, good criticism, good manners, good morals, and good God. Just grind out your stanzas or paragraphs according to the golden rule. But your factory workers and rickshaw-wallahs and auto mechanics and truck drivers and bus conductors and news vendors and shopkeepers and saleswomen and signalmen and on can I go naming many others, including your entire lumpen proletariat, keep stitching the dirty sentences of daily struggle in different dialects. From Dhakaiya to Sylheti, and your policemen and your dogs and your muggers and your reporters crossing one another's path and knowing your nights better than your urban poets and petty bourgeois politicians and mastans and ministers don't give a rap about ars poetica or ars erotica, nor do they give a hoot about how those chamchas bark English to amuse their foreign bosses or buddies, and meanwhile flashing their white teeth, the World Bank and the IMF mispronounce your name, mal-define your needs, make up your contracts, and then produce a long list of do's and don'ts. Damn, should I adjust structurally as I write these lines for you, Dhaka? Microcanvas 6, Dhaka, do you hear me? And do you know who runs the international body industry that buys at a discount and sells dear your teenage girls in the name of globalization? Oh, globaluni, you'd better believe that a Cadillac can pass through the eye of a needle, or that pigs can fly. And many pigs do, from Dhaka to Delhi, to Dhaka, to Dallas, to DC. And do you know how those pigs get their slop or swill from Wall Street or Washington and keep oinking in borrowed accents a rhymed couplet? God, gold, gun, fun, fun, fun. And do you know who daily mourns the death of justice after breakfast, feverishly visits foreign embassies after lunch, loudly pronounces Shukur Alhamdulillah after dinner with his biggest big shot cronies and nightly raves his maidservant to cure his damn insomnia? And do you know why your old farts, despite their gilt-edged securities and shares and stocks, wet their pants hearing people's footsteps? And do you know why your functionaries do not function? Your civil servants are neither civil nor servants. Your politicians talk but say nothing, and your professors profess and posture. And do you know who arrests your wind, uses thumb screws on your clouds, takes your leg to headquarters for loitering, and even drags your rainbow into their interrogation chamber as brother and poet Antler asks and answers in a poem? And do you know who shuts down your jute mill, imprisons your Shahid Minar, exiles your Dukhini Varnamala, and then sits on your chest with a dagger glinting hard with a metallic lust for blood in the darkest of your times? And do you know, Dhaka, do you know how justice becomes just us? Do my questions bother your lords in the middle of their lovely feudal siesta? And this is my concluding canto, Microcanto 7, Dhaka. on another register. It's cool and funky for these American boys to read Mao's red books and sport Che's face on their t-shirts and even tattoo Malcolm with the wrong spelling on their white skin. And they think revolution is a violent phenomena begins with yoking together Marley and marijuana. And they discuss the current state of the proletarian movement over popcorn, Pepsi, and pizza. And they debate for hours the fine points of dialectics at Starbucks while listening to jazz or blues, John Coltrane or Dizzy Gillespie. And they write haiku in the lowercase to declare that they are new millennium combatants in solidarity with the third world brothers and sisters. And high on their coffee shop praxis and monolingual internationalism, those revolutionaries in residence say, "Your English is excellent, Mr. Hussain." I say, "So is yours, and so fucking what?" And I continue, "Is there any mention of Dhaka in your Che Made Easy or your Malcolm in 50 Minutes? Do you know where Dhaka is?" And their long answer is a silence standing like a nervous middleman between them and us. "Dhaka, you bore me sometimes, and sometimes you even get on my nerves. But believe me, I have this crazy, crazy obsession with you. Probably I too can declare nothing but my love for you and churn out all those cliches or corny jokes about your hang-ups, your manners, and your shifting mood, indicative or imperative or subjunctive or dark or sunny or silly or frisky or whatever. Probably I too can psychoanalyze your six emotions as the Chinese counted them: sorrow, joy, hate, love, pleasure, anger. Probably I too can write the saddest or happiest lines of weather on a hard-as summer day smelling like burnt rubber, or a rainy night offering love and its lyrical madness. Probably I too can get confessional and even a bit controversial and sentimental, announcing that I romanticize you, idealize you, make a fetish of you, and even loan you out like Bollywood hits, as many of your sons and daughters do under a different sky. And even when I leave Dhaka and resort to this exile, perhaps a pseudo-exile, I return to you at every turn, every night, while you keep returning to me both clean and dirty, making me guilty, morose, dissatisfied, happy, hopeful about change. For I see another world taking shape in your children's eyes. Hear the roaring in the silence of Kolim the Kamla and Sakiman the Super. That was the end of the Dhaka poem. Thank you. Now, this is, I'm going to share with you feminist Palestinian poems in my English translations. I should point out here that contemporary Palestinian poetry is decisively political. And of course, all poetry, I would go to the extent of arguing that all poetry is directly or indirectly political. But in the case of contemporary Palestine, any distance between politics and poetry is bound to be false, because of the deep specificities and profound pressures of Palestine's political history, which directly prompts its poetry. Roque Dalton, the El Salvadoran poet, seems to have this kind of poetry in mind when he says, I quote, "Poetry, like bread, is for everyone," unquote. In other words, poetry, to the extent that it grips the masses, becomes a material force in the world of Palestinian women and men struggling for self-determination and for their homeland and their home. Now there are two poets here. The first one is Padawatu Khan, and the second ones, two poems by Salma al-Khadra al-Jayusi. As I've already said, both of them are from Palestine. And feminist poetry in contemporary Palestine I should say, is rich in messages and resonances which render the ongoing Palestinian struggle truly challenging, while suggesting that there is no alternative to an anti-colonial, anti-imperial national struggle for Palestinians at a time when they continue to remain homeless and landless. Women poets in particular make it clear that a national struggle needs to tie its broad agendas to the very issues of gender and class and related issues which otherwise remain largely neglected. For women poets, nation then is not just a narration or even an imagined community, but a material space in which gender and class matter and remain profoundly linked to home and land. Indeed, women's poetry in Palestine and the poems that I'm going to share with you variously suggest how labor, land, language, and the body continue to remain the sites of national oppression and women's opposition. So here is the first poem by Fatwa Tukan, and the poem is called Labor Pains. The Wind, in my translation, is a feminist poem by Fatwa Tukan. The wind blows the pollen in the night through ruins of fields and homes. Earth shivers with love, with the pain of giving birth, but the conqueror wants us to believe stories of submission and surrender. O Arab aurora, tell the usurper of our land, tell the usurper of our land, childbirth is a force unknown to him. The pain of mother's body, land a wound, inaugurates life, for dawn's cracks at a moment when the rose of blood blooms on the wound. That is the first one for Fatwa Tukan. This one is called Hamza, written by this feminist Palestinian poet, Fatwa Tukan, and it's called just Hamza in my English translation. Hamza was just an ordinary man, like others in my hometown, who work only with their hands for bread. When I met him the other day, the land was wearing a cloak of mourning in windless silence, and yes, I felt defeated. Hamza, the ordinary, said, "My sister, our land has a throbbing heart, it does not cease to beat, and it endures the unendurable, it keeps the secrets of hills and wombs. This land sprouting with spikes and palms is also the land that gives birth to a freedom fighter. This land, my sister, is a woman." Days rolled by. I saw Hamza nowhere, yet I felt the belly of the land was heaving in pain. Hamza, 65, weighs heavy like a rock on his own back. "Burn! Burn his house!" a command suddenly screamed, "and tie his son in a cell." The military ruler of our town later explained it was necessary for law and order, that is, for love and peace. Armed soldiers get out of his house. The serpent's coil came full circle. The bang at the door was but an order. Evacuate! Damn it! And generous as they were with their time, they could say, in an hour, yes. Hamza opened the window. Face to face with the sun blazing outside, he cried, "In this house, my children and I will live and die for Palestine." Hamza's voice echoed clean across the bleeding silence of the town. An hour later, impeccably, the house came crumbling down. The rooms were blown to pieces in the sky, and the bricks and the stones and all the stones all burst forth, bearing dreams and memories of a lifetime, of labor, tears, and some happy moments. Yesterday, I saw Hamza walking down a street in our town. Hamza, the ordinary man, as he always was, always secure in his determination. At the end of this first question. The second one is called A Tale, and it is by Salma Al-Khadra Al-Jadusi. It's called A Tale. He, my father-in-law, returns to bed. He sleeps with his wife, rises early, takes a bath, and prays to Allah for paradise. This is the law of Allah. That is the law of the Prophet. The river of kisses returns and rushes in prayers, and he dreams of a huri snaking between his thighs. His idea of fun in bed, plowing women to harvest children. My husband too genuflects before a lusty flea. He's also a buyer in the market. He saves the dinars to buy a second wife. But I wear a deep, deep scar on my brow. I sail in every windy direction, a wife exiled. My people are dead or dying, and dying only. My children half sleep near the lamp-lit windows of my house, tossed as it is by a storm. My country, under the silver moon of morning, the body of my mother, dead, wanders in the hills, while the wind stands silent by Evergreen. And this is the last one on this sequence. It's called In the Casbah. The war I thought the war was, mine and I, mine is the name. We died here. We are crushed by armored wheels. But you are freewheeling and double-dealing in the Casbah. I picked up the remains of my children's bodies, broken and scattered as they were in the streets. In nightmare I swung over my head, and then the peel of my skin kept it hanging over the fire to dry it up. I fled, I crawled, I larked, I heard the wind scream, Salma, 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 they have bought you and sold you. 1,000 snakes coiled around my heart, but you were freewheeling and double-dealing in the Casbah, weren't you? When our nation became the ground for the dead and the dying. So those were these feminist poems from contemporary Palestine. Now I will read a relatively light poem, like, light not means apolitical, but it's a different kind of poem I wrote for, and I dedicate this poem actually to my friend Natun Diganta. It's called A Love Poem Always Reserved. A love poem. Our ancestors had already distributed in droves balloons of love poems that you can no longer count. And poets today are investing their poemless nights in the multinational love poem and company to produce, package, and circulate new lines. But to write one for you is a formidable challenge despite the flower's instigation or the moon's collaboration and your unconditional readiness for expenditure and loss. Dearest poem, I'm not keeping well. Please let me know how much time I need to spend. I will appreciate if you take this note seriously. Please email me. I'm waiting to hear from you soon, Paul. Best, yours, A. But then, a new love poem will fall like a ripe mango. Only when you can eat a poem twice a day. A new love poem will fall on your bed with a blip. Only when a poem can get you a fuck of the century in a million positions past Vachayana's Kama Sutra and classic schema. A new love poem will click open like a door to the world when you can fly anywhere you want to, from Dhaka to Delhi to London to New York, by a poem only. And a new love poem will be born again and again when you can get all the food, all need with a poem, and with one poem and 0 cents only. Or when poems will drive good money, bad money, all money out. So that was a slight poem for Tony. Tony does political economy, of course. I use political economy in the space of the poem. They throw some tools of political economy in the space of the poem. Now, 2 short poems from Bangladesh. And the first one is by Al Mahmood. You'll hear two poems from Bangladesh in my English translations, of course. Al Mahmood is one of the leading poets writing in Bangladesh today. In addition to publishing numerous volumes of poetry, he has written short fiction and prose that traverse a broad range of themes. For him, poetry and politics are also inseparable to the extent that they continuously meet and mingle, even in a single image or word. One of his major preoccupations in poetry is the life of the rural Bengali subaltern farmers. The following poem I have translated from the Bengali into English in 2007. A return. Where shall we go? How far can you go? You see a river here, a hint of a rice field there, and mountains behind. You smell ancient salt in the wind, and you watch the feathers fly. Wings in 1,000 pairs soak the sky with syllables of tears. Have we then reached the land of rains? The masses flow like quiet waves. Once our tireless minds left these crowds, and we thought of a destination. The poet crossed his country's borders, his own shores, but today we return repentant. But we return to our people. We return to fish, birds, boats, rivers, and dolls made of art. He saw again the bird of the spring and leaped to its songs and calls. Playing a one-stringed instrument, he kept singing to himself in metrical silence. He saw the Krishnachura flaming full and piercing the ample green with pointed swords of fire. A whip of the wind, bushes and birds tremble. See, homes and women resemble Zoinul's paintings. Rice harvested increasingly around the hut. Women's saris pale in their dusks. The body bared on a hand-scrubbed courtier is a big fallen for lack of love. But again we, some fugitives, want to raise the banner of defeated love, whose color is the color of the heart. Villages, all such dwellings, gourds and trellises and women's saris, we want to live with all this. This heart sometimes bleeds for words lost. We want to return to our ancestors and their festival of drinking palm wine and arak, and revive our chant with courage, as ancient as their history. Oh, serve us with bleeding desires, drop by drop, drop by drop. So that is the Bengali poem in my English translation. And now it's a short poem, shorter really. And this is by the Bengali poet Abu Zafar Hussain. He is no longer alive, but he was a contemporary of Al Mahmood, writing poetry and prose in Bangladesh for more than 3 decades now. More than 3 decades, Ubaidullah continued to remain a major influence on the younger generation of poets in Bangladesh. His poetry heavily draws upon the history of anti-colonial and liberation movements in Bangladesh, while he is primarily concerned with the frustrations, nightmares, hopes and dreams of the Bengali peasant, poor peasant. The following poem, translated from the Bengali, was once quite popular, even in the rural areas of Bangladesh. And the poem is called The Girl. Her husband died last spring. When her hut at the edge of the field was burned, the news spread like fire throughout the village. Her mother died the same winter. The girl wept. And she never smiled again since then. I shall not reveal the name of this girl. She had a child. He crawled, making mild noises. His attempt at muttering, "Ma, I love you." But one day, the child stopped crawling. All her neighbors wept when they heard the news. Only she did not weep, but smiled. I shall not reveal the name of this girl. That is the Bengali poem. How much time have I left this going? I think I should end. Yeah. poems, in my English translation, again, poems from poems by Ahmed Faiz, one of my most favorite poets in the world. He's one of the greatest Urdu poets. So you'll hear a few short poems in my own English translations. He was born in India during British colonial rule. He studied philosophy and English, but poetry and politics preoccupied him more than anything else. For writing poetry that always antagonizes the ruling elite, the national ruling class, and challenges colonial and feudal values, like such insurgent poets, like such even revolutionary writers as Nagubi of Kenya and Mahmoud Darwish of Palestine and Qazi Nazrul Islam from our part of the world, the greatest revolutionary Bengali poet. Faiz too had to go to jail repeatedly during even post-colonial, so-called post-colonial times in Pakistan. Inspired by the Marxist ideology, Faiz poetry exhibits a strong sense of commitment to ordinary common folks, particularly to the poor, yet it always maintains a unique beauty nourished by the long, rich tradition of Urdu literature. His love poems are as appealing as his political poem, and he is considered as one of those who are responsible for shaping poetic diction in contemporary Urdu poetry. So the first poem is called Loneliness, short one. Loneliness, like a good old friend, visits my house to pour wine in the evening, and we sit together waiting for the moon and for your face to sparkle in deadly shadow. The second one by Faiz Ahmed Faiz is called Last Night. Last night, your lost memory visited my heart as spring visits the wilderness quietly, as the breeze echoes the silence of our footfalls in the desert, as peace slowly, softly descends on one's sickness. The third one, this is the third one by Faiz Ahmed Faiz, it's called, it's short poem, Tonight. Do not strike the chord of sorrow tonight. Days of burning with pain turn to ashes. Who knows what happens tomorrow? Last night is lost. Tomorrow's frontier wiped out. Who knows if there will be another dawn? Life is nothing. It's only tonight. Tonight we can be what the gods are. Do not strike the chord of sorrow again tonight. Do not repeat stories of sufferings now. Do not complain. Let your play its role. Do not think of tomorrows. Give it day. Shed no tears for seasons gone by. All sighs and cries wind up their tales. Oh, oh, do not strike the same chord. This is called Stanza. The political poem, short poem again, by Faiz Ahmed Faiz. If they snatch my ink and pen, I should not complain, for I have dipped my fingers in the blood of my heart. I should not complain, even if they seal my tongue, for every ring of my chain is a tongue ready to speak. And the last poem is called Speak, my all-time favorite poem, all time. I never tire of reading this poem, and sharing it. It's by Faiz Ahmed Faiz, and it's a great poem. And I dedicate this poem to my 11-year-old daughter, Salma, who lives in Portland, whom I'm going to see soon. My only child, my only daughter, who is a political activist in her own right. Her name is Salma, and she has spoken on capitalism and anti-capitalism, how you can smash capitalism. And that's online, YouTube. You might want to check out. It's a 1-minute poem. And then she also spoke on dying. She was 11-year-old. And talking about dying, that's why we should be dying. Speak. Speak. Your lips are free. Speak. It is your own tongue. Speak. It is your own body. Speak. Your life is still yours. See how in the blacksmith shop the burns wide. The iron grows red. The locks open their jaws, and every chain begins to break. Speak, speak, speak. This brief hour is long enough before the death of body and tongue. Speak, speak, because the truth is not dead yet. Speak, speak, wherever, whenever, whatever you want to speak. That is the sequence of Hoyer's poems has come to an end. And the last one, this is the last poem in my reading. It's a poem for which I need your participation. Or will it be disturbing the peace of our library here, though? You know, this is a poem. It's called A Poem Written for Cash. I tend to perform this poem quite a bit. And actually, I wrote this poem when I was in graduate school. I was broke and I was stoned at the same time. And what happened was this: then I went to a bar. You know, there was a bar in Pullman, Washington. It's called Rhizomes, and even today, still, graduate students and faculty members hang out. So I was there. So I went there, sad, morose, and all that, broke, cursing capitalism, and all that. And a Native American friend of mine showed up, an Indian short friend of mine showed up, and he said, "What's up, Azfar?" And I said, "Hey man, I'm fucking broke." And he said, "No worries, your friend is here. I'm going to buy you a burger." Then he immediately bought me from his bar. Give us for a burger. So I ate that burger, and then he brought me a glass of beer. Very generous. And I drank beer. So I felt a little buzzed because that one burger didn't satisfy my hunger fully. So I was on my relatively empty stomach. So I drank beer. So you get buzzed. You can't get buzzed relatively quickly. So that happened, and lines started rushing. And I told my friend, "Hey man, the poem is in the process of being wrong. Just give me a little bit of time and got a scrap of paper and start writing." That's the story. This poem is called My Version of Diabolical and Hysterical Materialism, a poem written for cash. As I've said, I need your help in the form of your participation in the performance of this poem. So you will hear this word cash repeated. It constitutes a refrain in my poem. And when I point at you like this and say cash, then you also say cash. Is that clear? Then I'm saying cash, 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 and now I point. Say cash, 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 cash. You have realized. Cool. Cool. And I have an epigraph in this poem, an epigraph taken from Anton Chekhov's short story called Gooseberries, and it's a one-line statement, again, one that I never tire of quoting. Tony is already familiar with this. He heard me say this probably 1,000 times. No? But hey, we still have this neoliberalist capitalism. So here is this epigraph line. I quote from Chekhov. "Money, like vodka, can do crazy things." Unquote. When they quibble over the ultimate signified, I say cash. When they shuffle their metaphors cracking open like an idiot smile, I say cash. When they say only love and golf cannot hide, I say cash, 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 cash. They say love is a divine December, or a divine comedy, or two bodies are blasted in a single burst of honey, or the manuscripts of slokas are dappling like a tiger's skin, and I say cash, 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 cash. They say the city of Calcutta floats in magic light with temples and tiger and double-takers with a no clash, and I say cash, 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 cash. They propose a poetry should be naked, or dressed, or full, or empty, or dirty, or pure, and I say cash is neither prose nor poetry, but cash, 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 oh, cash, 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 cash. They measure a distance between the trope and the truth. the sea azure, shipped in the diamond of the seven stars, the fables of incandescent silk in the Cuban blue of midnight, the famous ancient face of the moon, revealing itself in the mirror of the sand, the loud laughter of the water and silences, whispering like rains in the hours of love. They say love loves to love love, but I say cash cashes to cash. They exchange epiphanies and episteme and late night discourses on Zen. They catch them all in a flash. But I say cash, 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 unpretentious and inevitable like my damn fucking shit. And that was it. Thank you.